all the videos I'm posting it in YouTube, okay? Because some of you, you can't download from Microsoft Team and others, so everything is there. So fine. Okay. So let us start our discussion. So start recording, share the screen. Yes. No. So you are able to see, right, the screen. The PPT you are able to see, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So fine. So so last class, we have closed our first units. That is the basics we have discussed. Then we have come to this loads on steel structures. Okay. So I have given you introduction also in the last Friday's class. So we have seen. So what are the loads you have to use? Our IS 800 clearly, it specifies like dead load, imposed load, crane load, wind load, earthquake load, temperature, accidental loads. All these things are available in our IS 800. So we were looking after how to calculate these loads, slowly, like one by one kind of thing itself. So this is what the crane load, which is very important for the gantry girders and others. We have to do this one. Suppose if you are doing multi-story buildings, then this crane load may not be required. Then a dead load we have discussed, okay, in the last class. So all of IS 875 part 1 you have to use for to calculate the dead loads. And another most important thing what we discussed was the structure will be subjected to horizontal and vertical loads. Okay, so vertical means a dead load, live load, rain and snow comes, but wind and earthquakes, they become the horizontal forces. They are not like the the vertical forces itself. So how to calculate dead load I have explained you. So our IS 875 gives you the that material density or unit weight or something of the material. So if you know the dimensions, so you multiply by this and then you can get your dead load itself. So then, and here one more important thing I told you, when it is for steel structures, I told you it is very, very difficult to estimate the dead load, because the what section you are going to select to say, that is very different. So you assume something, you do calculate something, then you have to revise the division. Finally, once you have selected some sections, ISMB, this beam or that beam, you may have to revise. Okay, so this little bit you may have to do in iterative fashion for steel structures. Then imposed loads or live loads, that also we have seen. So residential building, I showed you in the code how they have defined. And the most important thing was our code says you have to model the load as UDL also. You have to model the load as concentrated load also. So whichever is higher, say, you have to use it in the design. Okay. So this also we have seen roofs and others, and this is also very important thing. Okay. So like when you are having a multi-story building, say, so our IS code says, the probability, say, okay, all the floors, loaded with maximum live loads is very remote. So they say you can reduce the load like 10%, 20%, 30%, what maximum is 50% of the load can be deleted. Okay. So this already we have seen the design calculation also. So this ends our imposed load. So now let us see our wind load. Okay. So wind load, as already I told, it is a very, very, complicated. See, the live loads, dead loads, they are very easy. They're very complicated, and it's a dynamic loads. These are all. Okay. So they are all functions of time. So this is the wind load will be there, but how do we handle this was the issue. Then we have seen, right, wind can very much damaging. Nowadays so many cyclones are coming and so much issues are there. So we have already started discovering. So like you see, discussing these issues. So when wind enters the building, so you will have pressure, suction, all kind, negative pressure, positive, so many things will be there. Even overturning also may happen actually, okay, when there is a wind load. And then like we have also said, like whenever there is a topography or if you are having a nearby, you followed it, it also the wind speed depends on all these things also. Okay. So these are, and another most important thing with wind is it is not only a force, but when there is a cyclone, so you can have the storm surge also. You would have designed the building safe for wind, but if the building is located at a very low lying land, say, then although building is safe for wind pressure, but it may submerge due to this storm surges also. So this also becomes a very important to see in the wind design. Okay. So now this is what I said you, like calm wind, violent storm, hurricane we have seen also. So these are the speeds, and here the most important thing all of you remember. So whenever I am saying wind speed is 50 kilometer per hour, say, so we all know that wind speed varies with height. Okay. So this 50 corresponds to which height? Now, whenever somebody says wind speed is in like IMD, 10 meter. So this is a design standard actually. So whenever somebody says wind speed is, this much, that means a 10 meter. That is the design standard. You have to measure the wind speed. Of course, sometimes 10 to 30 also they use actually. It's not like fixed one, but 10 meter is a design standard. And now this also we have seen. Now we have seen that wind velocity, say, okay. So it depends on the surface terrain, the topography or the friction, say. So when wind encounters our Earth surface, the velocity automatically it has to go to 0. So you will have these type of things. So now what do you call this phenomenon? So wind, it is like this, it varies, okay. So after some point, say, then it becomes constant. So what do you call this depth or this height? We have discussed in the last class. And what do you call this velocity? What is it? You told height. Gradient height. Excellent. Gradient height. Then the speed at this gradient height we call as gradient, wind speed or something like that we say. And what do you call this layer? This layer, what do we call?
Atmospheric boundary layer.
Boundary layer. Excellent. Okay. So this layer, what does it tells you? The effect of boundary, say, or Earth surface on wind, how much height you can feel this thing. So that is what we call as atmospheric boundary layer. Okay, this is a very technical word which is used in wind design. Okay, and now this also was very interesting thing I showed. So when wind is blowing this direction, say from this to this here, the boundary layer you can see. So here there is no obstruction, say. So the boundary layer, it may reach the gradient thing at very little height itself. It may reach Vg. Okay. But whereas when this is and you are having a mountain and you are having a structure here, now you can see the boundary layers, say. So it may be, it may be felt up to much more height itself. Then when you are on the top of the mountain, say, then the boundary layer may be something. And another important thing was the Vg was if the gradient wind speed, say. So in all these cases, it is less than this Vg 0.8 or 0.6. But when you're located on the top of the mountain, say, there is a chance that it may get amplification also. So this is a very important thing. Topography amplification we say. Okay. So the speed compared to Vg, here you will see very high speeds actually 1.2 times Vg. And now if you are on this side of the mountain, say, last class we have seen very little thing, but the boundary layer also, it gets affected actually. Okay. So this also we have seen. And suppose if the, so which is the safest place? We discussed it last class, 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of things. Say. The safest thing was 4 actually. But if the wind blows this side, say, then everything will be a reverse kind of thing also. See, some of you please mute yourself. I think noise is coming. So this is a very important, the relation. This is Ug is the velocity of the wind speed. Okay, so wind velocity, say. So wind velocity, it is basically depends on, they vary, how it varies with respect to height. Z is the height. Okay, so this is a famous equation given by Davenport. Is I think long back, how this atmospheric boundary layer, they have done all these studies. So it varies with like this. So Z grade is the depth of the boundary layer. Okay, and alpha is a coefficient. So they say that this Z grade, say, that is the depth of the boundary layer, and alpha. So they depend on the surface terrain or how these things are going to vary. So like for example, if it is a open place, say, there is no obstructions are there. So the wind velocity, say, it will be like this with respect to depth. So up to 270 meters, that is the depth of the boundary layer, and alpha is a 0.16. So this has been, the people have measured, and these are the numbers. Suppose if you see some small obstructions like houses and small trees are there, say, then the depth of boundary layer will be 390 meters and alpha will be 0.28. But when you are having multi-story buildings, a very large, like now Chennai, you followed, right? 200 meters height buildings are there. The depth of boundary layer, increases. This increases to 510 meters, and alpha, say, this is basically 0.4. So generally, so these things varies with your surface terrains, and then the surface, the roughness and other things also. So this is also same thing I'm showing you here. So open terrains, alpha is 0.16. Then forest region, say alpha is 0.28, urban region, say it is 0.40. Same thing, whatever previously I have shown here. So urban regions, say like Chennai city or something, you see, suppose if you are located in a villages, small villages where you don't see multi-story buildings, say. So then these alpha values, ZG, that is the depth of the boundary layer, they all, vary kind of a thing itself. And of course, the depth of the boundary layer depends on the heights of the building. So suppose if you go to Dubai, say now people are building almost I think 1 kilometer high, so much tall buildings. Then your alpha, then other things also may vary. Okay, depending on the construction. Like if you see compare Chennai and Bombay, say in Bombay you will see very high rise buildings. I think Chennai, I think 25 story or 30 only is this one. But in Bombay, we have now 600-meter buildings are also going to come up. Okay, so boundary layer, then alpha, they also may vary with respect to this itself. So now here one most important thing in wind is this wind, say if you want to do analytical if you want to solve like equations of motion and then solve all those things, it's very complicated because of non-linearity. The wind is like a fluid, it is a gas kind of a thing. So non-linearity and others, it is very difficult to understand how the building responds to a this wind type of a force. So like for example, if I have a the building like this, say building or whatever, when I apply the load here, now what happens when you apply the load, the building will deflect in which direction? In the longitudinal, that is a parallel to the load or perpendicular to the load? No.
Parallel.
Same, parallel to the load actually. So now, but in under what cases when it goes perpendicular to the load also? So load is applied in the x direction, but the building is vibrating in y direction also. So this also may happen during wind itself. Okay, so you can see. So this small things, I will just show you a nice video now. So you can see here, it's a nice video. So you can see, so when the building is vibrating, so the wind is, you can see how the, so you can see, so this is our wind is blowing. So now how this building is vibrating? Now, so you can see, so this building, so if you see this figure here, so now you can see here, okay, so when the wind is blowing in this direction, how the building is vibrating? It is vibrating in both the directions. Whether it is vibrating, parallel or perpendicular is the question. Okay, so you can see, so this is a nice video, so which tells you, so how the building is vibrating. So when wind is blowing like this, in which direction the building was vibrating? Now, the load is acting it was vibrating even in this direction also. You followed, right? So this is what along wind response, across wind response also they say. Okay, and then you will see that video also. You have seen some small the vortices gets formed, vortex shedding they say. Okay, so because of this perpendicular vibration, say, okay, perpendicular to the direction of the wind, so you will see these type of features also, vortex shedding, so many things will be there. And suppose if I have a building here and nearby another building is there, so then the things becomes much more the complicated, and we also call this as an interference effect also. Okay, interference, let's say. So these are all technical words in wind code. Okay, and now these things is said to to get vortex shedding or to get interference effect, analytical ways, right? Like writing the equations of motion, solving them, it is a very complicated thing. Okay, like if simple beams, already the equation m is equal to a d square y by dx square you can write. But here this is a very complex thing. So what happens is most of the wind results, they are all based on experimental results, or we call them based on wind tunnel tests. Okay, so there are larger wind tunnel testing people do in practice. So this is like a typical wind tunnel I am showing you here. So the wind tunnel, it looks like this. So the this is like a full tunnel will be there. So you cast all your specimens inside, say. So now you blow the wind actually, okay, and the wind goes where this direction. So people will measure, all these details itself. So you can see downside there is a huge wind tunnel which has been built in Germany. It is available in Wikipedia, or you can type also in Hamburg or somewhere. Huge wind tunnel. You can see they have made the full city itself. They have made all the building models. So to understand, this is the profile of wind itself, because it is very difficult to calculate analytically. So the only way is you do by experiments and then model them in the wind tunnels. So these also our wind tunnels. You can see these are our SERC. Have you heard this SERC, which is next to our IIT Madras, our backside, that Taramani area, we have Structural Engineering Research Center. So they have a huge wind tunnel facility. So in the huge wind tunnel facility, they do all kinds of testing. So these are all the small buildings actually. Okay. So to understand the interference, to understand the vortex shedding, how much will be this one. So they cast these type of small you follow, right, the specimens in the wind tunnels, and then they do all these calculations. And most of our IS 875 that code say is based on this, the wind tunnel experiments itself. So this is also one typical wind tunnel. I think they have done for some buildings or for some, typical structures in SERC. This I already showed you. So these are also, so you can see small buildings they put to understand interference, how much if you're constructing a buildings, how much it will interfere other building kind of a thing. Then this is, I think, some chimney, they have done a chimney or something, you see, which they have done, tall chimneys are there for in the power plants. So they have done wind tunnel experiments, and here also the huge buildings say, okay, the cluster, how the interference affects, what will be the wind forces. Subjected to this type of cyclones or hurricanes kind of a thing, and then to verify whether things are safe or other the aspects itself. So most of our IS code or most of the results in wind thing comes from wind tunnel test. So experiment is a very the important concept in wind engineering. Okay, so this is a very important thing. And now we will go to the code itself. So now, as already I told, wind is a dynamic force. Okay, our code also clearly specifies, wind is a dynamic force, but we do something like a static, analysis, because it's very simple. And then the code also specifies that the structures are very important structures, very tall buildings, and then very huge bridges. You may have to do this wind tunnel test, and you design as per our code, and then you do wind tunnel test also, and then you have to synchronize these two, and then arrive at a nice the solutions. So now this is our wind code. What our IS 875 does is, so they divide the whole India say into some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zones. Okay, so they have divided the whole India into 6 zones for wind speed calculations. So these are the color code. So 55, the highest wind speed in our India say, the design value is 55 meters per second. And then 50, 47, and the lowest is, you see, 33 meter per second. Okay, so this is what the wind you followed it, a design wind speed or whatever, or this VB. Okay, that is a wind which comes from the map. So that is given into 6 zones. So you have to choose based on your thing. So if you see IS 875, they also the same map I am showing you here with color bar itself instead of having like that. So now please identify which is the most dangerous area in India with respect to wind, where wind speeds will be very high. No, so this is one region. Then apart from that, no. What about
Meghalaya?
Meghalaya, not Meghalaya. Shillong is down. Agartala, Tripura, you followed, right? So this is the most, the dangerous region. So what is the highest wind speed in these regions? This graph shows you the highest wind velocity in Agartala. This is 55 meter per second. Now in Chennai, what's the wind speed? Tell me. Chennai is the next, or maybe you see this figure. Chennai, next thing is the most dangerous is this one and this one. Okay. Now the next comes is our this region, that is a Chennai. So for Chennai, what's the design wind speed or this VB?
50.
50 meter per second. So now all of you are from variety of places, right? Some of you are from Gujarat, some of you are from this place. So you can easily identify how much is the design wind speed at your location. Okay, so this is a very important map itself. So this is the first map, which our IS code divides the whole India into some 6 zones, and they give you this basic, the wind speeds, that is a VB. Okay, so this our IS code gives you. And now what our code says is, once you know this VB say, okay, that is a value which comes from the map. So you have to multiply some 3 numbers are there, K1, K2, K3 kind of a thing, where K1 is a probability factor or the risk coefficient they say, K2 is a terrain. We have already seen, right? So if you are located in urban, say, terrain is different. If you are located in a rural, say, terrain will be different, So you have to decrease or increase or something, you may have to do this one. And then topography also. Last time I already showed you, when you are on the top of the mountains, the wind speeds, amplify like anything, 1.2 or 1.3 also may occur. But if you are located here, say, so this also matters. So code says is, so you have to multiply by this 3, the coefficients itself. Now so the most important thing in our IS code, this for this wind code is, it is the code is based on the concept of, the written period. Okay, this is a very, very fundamental thing. So this is the only IS code. Okay, so which talks about this written period. No other code specifies this one. So they say this 50 years, 5 years, 25 risk coefficients they gives you for variety of this itself. Okay, so now for this you have to understand, the concept of the written period. See, like for example, say, okay, so this has to be understood, the written period. So this concept in our IS code. So this has to be understood. Now all of you have heard this word written period. So where it comes, this written period concept, I think you people would have done that probability statistics course, right, in mathematics department or something. So there you would have heard this word written period. So this written period is associated with what random variable? Can anybody tell us? Which random variable it is related to this written period concept?
Normal.
Which one? The which random variable? Like we have, right, normal random variable, Bernoulli random variable, exponential, then geometric random variable, I think binomial, so many random variables you would have seen. So now, which is the one which gives you, this thing? Yeah.
Bernoulli.
Bernoulli. You people have done, right, that probability course from mathematics department.
Sir, normal.
Normal. So one word is Bernoulli, one is normal. All of you have done the course, right?
No, sir, it's not a compulsory course.
But of course, some of you would have done. It's not a compulsory, I agree, but some of you would have done, right, this course. So it is not associated with Bernoulli or normal. So which is the one which written period is associated with is geometric random variable. You can verify. You can go back and you can do also. And what is the speciality of written periods? No. See, why this concept of written period comes is like, I will design my structures as per IS code. See, like steel structures, say, I will follow IS 800. I will, for calculation of dead loads, I will use IS 875. All those things I will do. Now, or if I want to design RCC structures, I will follow IS 456 actually. Okay, I will do the design. Now, after you design the structure, you have done construction. If I ask you a question, say, are you safe? I have followed strictly the codal requirements. So now if I ask you the question, will you be safe? No. I have followed the codal requirements. I have done all the thing, whatever code says you put this, I will put that one. If you use this section, I have used that section. If the code says don't use slender, I will not use slender section. So I have done perfect design as per IS 800. Now I have built my structure. Now if I ask you question, are you safe? Now, what is your answer?
Most probably.
Yeah? Most probably. Why? Why that? Why are you using that word probably? So we have
unforeseen situation like a big earthquake or a flood or storm, something like that.
Okay, so I think you are very good. Okay, so that is you can have answer. But why do you think that why do we have this type of uncertainty? See what the code says, what is the main objective of all our codes? Safety only. Okay, the building has to be safe. This is the most important requirement in the codes. But the building has to be safe in where? Past or future? See, when you're constructing a building, you want the building to be safe in past or future?
Future.
Obvious, right? The future 50 years. So if we'll say the lifetime of a building is 50 years to say. So if I'm constructing a building in 2021, say it has to be safe until 2071. So the safety, whatever you are talking that word in the code, that safety is in future, not in the past. You follow, right? This is the most important thing, you know, which we miss actually in all the calculations. So now when you say future is a very, very, you know, dangerous word. All of you agree or not? See, future is good or it's a day, you know, of course, no, about the buildings I'm talking about. OK, so future is a very, very dangerous word. The reason is, you know, because, you know, so much of uncertainty will be there. Future is already, you know, always uncertain. There is some saying is there. Past is always deterministic. OK, but future is uncertain. See, once you are like, you know, you have written the, if you are going to write the exam, say, then, you know, you will feel, you know, so much tensed and so much of uncertainty will be there. But once you have written the exam, say, then you will feel, ah, I know that answer, I could have done this way. Ah, I know everything, but somehow this, somehow that, you followed, right? We argue. Once, but now let us say you have written the exam. Now, once again, you are writing another exam. So still it will be uncertain itself. You followed, right? So past, once that event has happened, everything appears to be deterministic only. Like, for example, this COVID situation, say, before COVID, you know, nobody predicted COVID. No astrologer told or nobody, even nobody predicted this COVID situation. But once COVID has gone, so now everybody says, no, I know this one, that Jupiter was here, Saturn was here, you followed, right? We already know the answer. No, we know all these things, you know, all kinds of things will come. So our human tendency is, you know, the past is always appears to be like a deterministic, but it is also randomness in disguise, we say. Okay. So these are very famous, you know, the words actually. So past looks deterministic, but in past is also random only. Our life itself is random. You follow, right? So randomness in disguise, they say. Okay. And future anyway, you know, nobody has a control or, you know, nobody can do anything, you see, in future itself. So now, you know, so if I say future is dangerous and future is uncertain, so we never expected these type of situations. So now how do we handle this uncertainty? Now, so how do we handle in codes, or how do we handle this one? Now, what do we do? Practice.
So we have factors of safety.
But factors of safety and IS 800 already they have given 1.5, 1.6. I will use that factor of safety also. But still, I am asking you, are you safe? That's what I told. My question was, I have designed as per IS 800. IS 800 has told you use a factor of safety 1.5. I have used a factor of safety 1.5 also. After doing all those things also, still, are you safe or not was the question. Now, how do we handle this situation? Now, how do we handle this risk, which is, you know, out of our control? So what do we do? Like your parents or maybe some of you would have done. See, we all know that, right? We also have a, you know, some kind of risk. When I'm crossing the road also I have risk. Although I may follow all traffic rules, but God only knows. You follow anything might happen actually. So what do we do in our, you know, your parents, or what do we do generally in our lives to handle this risk, this uncertainty future? Now, what do we do? Now, what do we do?
Insurance.
Insurance. Excellent answer. Perfect answer. I don't know who told this one. What is your name?
Kishore.
Kishore Shanoy. Eh?
Yes, sir.
Excellent, I say. Very this one. So I think you got the answer. Okay, insurance company. So what do we do? So we insure ourselves. So once you have insured yourself, say, so then you follow it. If something happens to that person, at least the family will get some kind of a monetary benefit itself. So nowadays, what is happening? Even not only for human beings, buildings also insurance is mandatory. You followed. In US, Europe, everywhere, you know, you have to insure your building. Otherwise, bank will not give loans to you. You understand? So this is a very, very important. Even in now, I have bought apartments. Okay, in you know, my native place. but I took bank loan. But bank says they will give loan until and I insure my building actually, because if I don't insure my building, if something happens, say I will lift my hands. So bank will take my property. But what bank will do with a collapsed house, gone case? So what they are doing is everybody, this is insurance. So now we all know that there is some amount of uncertainty, in our future. So we cover the risk with insurance. So this is the design concept. So this is our design also. Okay. So cover the risk with insurance. So this is a new concept, of course it's an old concept in America, but in India now we are implementing all these things. So cover the risk with insurance for buildings also. Now what insurance company will do once you insure yourself, let us say you have insured yourself for some 20 lakh policy you have taken. So like COVID Kavach insurance also came recently. So what insurance company will do? No. What do you, if you insure yourself, so what you have to pay? No. Now what happens? Yearly you have to pay some for insurance policy. Premium you have to pay. Like right, for if a 60-year-old man takes insurance for 10 lakhs, say, and a 10-year boy also takes for 10 lakhs, say, whose premium will be more? 60-year-old man, then 10 years boy, small boy. Okay. So whose premium will be more? Which one?
Senior citizen.
10-year citizen. Are you sure? Who has more risk, 60-year person or 10-year person?
60-year.
60-year-old man, there is for him risk is more, because he already, his life is gone 60 years. He may survive only for 10 or 20 only, but 10-year boy you followed, right? He is very young, and this one he can survive long time. So risk for this fellow is more, risk for this fellow is very less. So both of them, let us say they take 10 lakh policies, say, okay. So for him the insurance premium will be maybe say 20,000 rupees per year, but for the small boy, say it may be some 9,000 rupees per year or something like that. Okay. So what insurance companies they do is they charge you a premium for even for buildings also. If I want to insure a new building, say excellent constructed, my premium will be low. But if I want to insure a 30-year-old building, say, then insurance companies they don't even give. But if they give also, my premium will be extremely high itself. Okay. So the insurance companies comes, and so insurance companies to fix this premium, say, how do they fix the premiums? So they have to take a decision, okay, how to fix the premiums or something. So they do this kind of probability analysis, uncertainty analysis. So they want this concept of return period. So this is the fundamental thing. So everything is boils down to return period. And return period, say the reciprocal of return period, say 1 by TR, they say, okay, this gives you probability of exceedance. R is failure. So generally failure means something has exceeded. Okay. So then the word which everybody uses is probability of exceedance. So this is the most important concept. So if they know the the risk levels, return period, reciprocal of that will give you the risk or the probability of failure. So this is what is required for the insurance companies or for insurance of our buildings itself. Now in our IS codes, the dead load or even the imposed loads, all the IS, even 456, IS 800 also, they don't specify the concept of return period at all. So, it becomes very difficult to insure these type of buildings. But now in our IS code, the one good thing is the wind code, say, they have incorporated this concept of return period, the very, very important concept. That's the beauty of wind code in our India. Other codes doesn't have, this concept of return periods. Okay. So I will not go into the details of return period. You can verify, you can see in any probability book and other things also. So it is just defined like this, the return period. So it is just the, I will just write this one, average time. Okay. So it is just defined like the average time between consecutive occurrences. Okay. So between consecutive occurrences. Okay, consecutive occurrences of the same event. So it is something like average duration, they say. You followed. I will just give an example. Nowadays, I think all of you are watching cricket, no? In Chennai, I think test match is going on or something like that. So if you take any batsman, say like Virat Kohli or somebody, all of you, I think, like him. So if you see his batting, say, how many matches he would have played right now, Let us say he has played some 200 matches or something, 200 innings or whatever you followed, right? And if you see his details, the run score, see the first match, what is the first match, how many runs Virat Kohli has scored? Any of you remember the first match? No, none of you remember. I also don't remember. Let us say he has scored 10 runs in the first match. Second match, he has hit some century, 111, then duckouts. Then once again, he has hit a century, then 50, then once again century, some 1 or 2 runs or something, then 60, then duckout, then 130. Then he hits centuries successive, say 142, 152, and then duckout. So like this, you will have all his data up to 200 matches actual. Okay, so 200 samples will be there. Now, if you want to find out the probability or the return period, say for Kohli for hitting runs more than 100 actual. Okay, so runs more than 100. So we want to find out Virat Kohli's return period, okay, for hitting a century of Virat Kohli. So what to do is this calculations. Now where Virat Kohli has hit the first century, when he has hit, in the which match he has hit, first match or in the second match?
Second.
So second match actually. So now from this to next century, how many matches he has taken from this one level to 100?
3.
3. So this is in the third match. So first his century he hit in 2 things. The next century, so he has hit 3. Then next one, from this one to this one,
2.
2. Then from here to this one, once again, you see,
3.
3. Next one,
0.
0. Next match itself, or you can say 1 or whatever, say 0. The next is also 0, like that, you will get. So this is the duration between his centuries actual. Now if I average, say like this, I average all these things divided by a total number of centuries or whatever, say I will get my, you followed, right, the return or this average itself. Okay, sorry, this no division, already we have divided. So the average of all these numbers will give you the return period actually. So the Kohli's return period, maybe I have no idea. You can verify yourself. So for Kohli, say the return period for centuries hitting for a century, or a century means hitting runs more than 100 runs, say. Okay, so or greater than 100 runs or whatever. Let us say it is some 3.4 it has got actually. So what does it tells me? So on an average, Virat Kohli will hit a century or will hit runs more than 100 in 3.4 matches actual, or maybe approximately if you round it off, maybe you can round it to 3, or maybe you can round it to 4 matches. So this is what we call, as you followed, right, the return period. So the return period tells you the duration actually, that is average duration, that is a definition. So between these 2 events itself. So this is how the return period is defined. And then let us say Virat Kohli is playing the one-day match tomorrow. What is the probability that somebody asks you, say what is the probability that Virat Kohli will hit runs more than 100 runs in the next match? Okay, now what is the probability? You know the return period of Kohli. So return period of Kohli is 3.4 matches. So this will be reciprocal actual of the return period. So 1 by 3.4 itself, or 1 by 4 if you round it off, say 4 matches, then it will be 1 by 4. So you can easily 0.25 is its probability. You followed, right? So this is how you followed it. You can calculate, so the reciprocal of return period will give you the probability of exceedance. So that is how you say generally, people use this one. So this, if you want to learn this thing, you can just go to any probability textbooks. So they will be all these details are there, 1 by using TR itself. So this is the probability of exceedance, or probability of failure or probability of exceedance is a reciprocal of this return period. Now our wind code, say if you see our IS 875, the wind code, what they say is that map I showed, right, 55 meter per second, some 33 meter per second, all those numbers, our wind code clearly specifies all of them corresponds to 50-year return period. You followed. So they have specified nicely the return period also. So probability of exceedance, say, will be in a given year. So this will be simply 50. The probability that the wind speed will be more than 50, or wind speed, say, will be more than that VB in a given year. Okay, so this will be simply 1 by 50. So this is how you can calculate the probability. And now if you want to do this type of calculations, say the probability, okay, the wind speed The wind speed at my site in Chennai or whatever, at Chennai, say, let me write like this, will be more than VB given in the code, the codal map or something, in next 50 years. I don't want next year, in the next 50 years. So now how do we calculate? You would have studied probability, so I will not go into IIDs. You assume that all the years, say, it can exceed this year, that year, this year, that year. So you assume IID identical, that IID random variables and others ones. So you can write this expression as, you see, 1 minus 1 minus, you see, 1 by TR whole to the power of n, or this n is 50 years. So if this you can write as 1 minus e to the power of minus n by TR. Sometimes you can approximate this as, you see, n by TR also for large n's and TRs. So now for our wind code, say, so probability in 50 years. Okay, so n is equal to 50 years. So this will be, you see, 1 minus 1 minus this is 50 years. That is the return period of the wind to the power of 50 itself. So this turns out to be, so this value turns out to be something around, say, 6.6635. So this is the value you get actually for 50 years. So if I have a building, say, whose lifetime is 50 years, and I have chosen the return period is also 50 years, say, the return period, whatever the code says. So finally, how much risk I'm taking? So what's the probability that my structure will fail in the next 50 years? What is the, how much is the probability? Now, how much is the probability? Now, you can see here. So 63.5% actually. So this is the probability risk for 50 years. In 1 year, in 1 year it will be simply 1 by 50 itself. So this will be, you followed it, 0.02, which will be very less in 1 year. As exposure time increases, say, then my probability of risk also increases. So our wind code says that this is an acceptable risk, they are saying. You followed. So this is acceptable risk. So our wind code clearly specifies, if you are following the code, how much risk you are taking if the building life is 50 years.
63.5%.
Is it high or low? Now, is it high or low? 63% probability means 63. There is a 63% chance that 55 meter per second will be exceeded actually in 50 years.
High.
It's a high, but what happens if you want to decrease? Then design becomes uneconomical. Okay, so based on all kinds of things they have fixed. So now once you know your risk level, say, then it is very easy for insurance company. So insurance company, you followed it, they will fix premiums on these numbers itself. So this is a catch in our IS 800. So this IS 875 part 3. Okay. So this is what our coefficient. So now if my, what is the design life here? 50 years, say. So my K1, that factor I showed you, right? So which is given in this expression K1. So this is a risk coefficient actually. So now, so this clearly you can see. So you can see in this figure, this 50-year return period. So this map corresponds to 50 years return period actually. Okay, this is a very, very important concept. So there is you can find out the chance that it can be a risk. So now this K1, which is a probability factor, they give like this. Suppose you have taken building life is also 50 years, say. So generally all building structures, we assume their time will be 50 years. So this risk coefficient is 1 only. Okay, because the map also corresponds to 50 years. So here also you followed it, the 50-year return period. So this is 1. So this risk factor, the code says. Suppose if you are constructing a small shed, say, like, new IITs are coming, temporary campus we make. So temporary campus means, let us say 5 years is the lifetime of my structure. So then this factor K1 will be reduced actually. Okay, 0.76, 0.73, you followed it. These numbers will you have to use. Now, if it is a low degree of hazard or something, isolated towers or something, the probable design life is only 25 years itself, and these are the risk coefficients. Now, important buildings, hospitals, towers, and others, the lifetime is 100-year, the return period we take. So now, what is the K1 factor here? Is it high or low? Now, see now here what is happening? The numbers are high or low? See, our code value is 50 years they give. Okay, but now if the design life is increasing, say, what should be happen to this K1 factor? If they have increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Because why it is increasing? Because our code says design life is 50 years only, but we have taken it to be 100 years. So if you have increased the design life, your risk, you follow the exposure time increases, risk also increases. So your K1 factor has to be increased actually. Suppose if the design life is less than, our code specifies 50 years, but if it is less than 50, say, then you can decrease your design value also to make more, the economical kind of thing itself. So this is a very, very fundamental thing in our IS 8. This table is in IS 875 part 3. You can see clause 5.3.1. And they also give a formula, suppose if it is if you want a building whose lifetime is 120 years or 60 years lifetime, so they have given only for 55, 2500. Suppose you want to design a building 75-year lifetime or 125 year or 150 years say. So they don't give the chart. So you have to use this formula, and they have given all the numbers. Substitute here, you will get the number. And here the most important thing is how come this 0.63 comes now. What is the basis? Now, what is the 0.63? Just now I showed you the calculations, right? 63.5 or something. What is this 0.63?
The risk
Probability
percentage.
In how many
the
years?
speed increases.
50
No, the
years.
probability 50 years. Assuming 50, this 63 comes up. Now, if you want to calculate for some other n value, some other this one say, then this formula has to be used. So this you have to use. And our code says the probability levels 63% risk is they are saying it is to be acceptable. They are saying that is how I think this number would have come from insurance fellows. Okay, so this is design of buildings or something. You see, this is what they say. So this all of you should understand. Okay. And now that another thing, the K2 factor is there, which is a terrain factor, they say. So this is also a very the important factor, because already we have seen, right, wind high strongly depends on your nearby structures, whether you are located in a rural, because boundary layer, gradient speed, all those things will be different. So now our code defines A, B, C, these three type of classifications of buildings. So it is something, class A means horizontal vertical dimension less than 20 meters, then it is a 20 to 50, then it is a 50 meters. So like a tall building, small height, then medium, then depending on the height of the building itself. So they have clearly mentioned this one. And we have 4 terrains, say category 1, category 2, then category 3, then category 4 itself. So now which is the most tall here? So A, B, C say. So you can see which is the tallest thing, so C is basically 50 meter greater than 50 horizontal or vertical dimension, both of them. Okay, and 20. So this is a classification, and the terrains are classified like this. So this is a terrain category 1. Can you see this category? What is there here? Now, do you see any boundary layer happening here? Or the gradient speed or the boundary layer depth of the boundary layer will be small or more here? Now, whether there are any obstructions?
No, sir, no obstruction.
No obstruction. So it means it is like a free, so the depth of boundary layer will be small or more. Now, previously I have shown you, right, this figure. This figure. Now, what is this figure? So this is something like open terrain, no obstruction. So what happens? The depth of the boundary layer will be how much? Now, 100 meters only. Now, suppose if it is a rural or some other area, say, then depth of the boundary layer will be different. If it is a building, say, you can see 500 meter height also, you are not able to get the, sorry, not 100, sorry, this is, I think, 200 or something. This is speed. Okay, so this turns out to be 300. So what happens when you are having obstructions? The boundary layer depth will be different, alpha will be different. So based on that, you see, the terrains comes into picture. So terrain 1 comes into, this region. So no obstructions, nothing is there. So it is basically, this is a terrain category 1. Now terrain category 2. Now what is you are observing here compared to the previous ones?
Some obstruction.
Some trees are there here, there you followed it, some small. So this is classified into terrain category 2 kind of a thing. Then this is a terrain category 3. So more obstructions are there. You can see, right, big trees or big you follow, right, buildings are there. Sorry, small buildings are. Then terrain category 4. What is the terrain category 4? See, our Chennai is in which terrain? 1, 2, 3 or 4?
4.
4.
4, because lot of buildings you followed it, so many things. So here the depth of the boundary layer also will be high, alpha also will be different. So code also defines into 4 categories. And then this K2 cell, you can see they give with respect to height also. So now so at 500 meters say, okay, so now in terrain category 1, then terrain category 4, you can pick up this number. So if you are in Chennai and if you are going for a C class building, say that is greatest horizontal or vertical is more than 50 meters, and if the building, and if you want to find out at what height this itself, so you can find out from this graph 1.05 or 1.13. so these numbers can be picked up actually depending on your terrain category and the height of the building itself. So this is required to find out the the height, that's that wind pressure with respect to height, how much followed it the wind pressure will be. So to calculate this one, so these numbers can be used. So for Chennai, if you are C class, this one says, so you have to use this to find out the wind codes with respect to height of the building itself. So this is how the terrains are defined actually. Then we have another factor which is a topography factor. If you are located near the mountains, where you are, so that also you followed it, very important thing. Now our code says, what do you mean by topography? If the upwind slope actually is greater than 3 degrees, say, then we say that you see it is a topography. You have to do some extra, the work itself. So this is how it is defined. So I have a mountain here. So this is my angle, that is a theta. So if it is theta is more than 3 degrees, say, so then topography effects becomes important. If theta is less than 3 degrees, say, then the topography effect may not be required to you may not have to do any other extra work, you see, to calculate these numbers. And this graph also shows if you are having a mountain like this, say, okay, and wind is blowing in this direction, the region affected by the topography feature. Okay, so approximately the code says if LG, we will show LG is given by this expression like Z by 0.3 or whatever. So it shows 1.5 times this side, 2.5 times this side. The the wind you followed it, it gets affected due to a mountain. So this is like the region of influence of a mountain, okay, on wind itself. So anyways, I think I will stop here. So the next class, we will continue, okay, in the tomorrow's class. So if you have any doubts or questions, you can ask.
Thank you, sir.
So stop the recording. Yes.